Hey, this next video is going to be about postmodernism and its notion of truth and what's the problem with it according to the theory. Now, I don't know if you know anything about postmodernism, but in a nutshell, the idea of postmodernism is that there is no objective truth. It's all narratives, competing narratives for what reality is. And it would say that everything is narratives, like completely everything. Now, the history, biology, science, everything is narrative. Now, if you followed my explanation about this theory about segmented aspects, which I describe in my book Metadimensional, out on Kindle, you might get the impression that it's exactly the same thing. I'm saying that there is no objective truth. We are all share, like the reality we share is a reality of reconciliation between our different accounts of reality, and it is true insofar as there is agreement so there is not. So it's basically the same thing, you'd think, but the problem is that it's not. And it's not for a very similar reason to the problem I have with the term consciousness, which I say it is not. Consciousness is different from experience. Consciousness contains memory and identity, and memory and identity are stored and maintained by the body, by the physical, by the non-experiential. So when you talk about consciousness, you merge in two things that shouldn't be together, and you get to weird or wrong conclusions because of that. So the same thing happens with postmodernism, because you have to think about my model of reality. My model, according to the theory, is that the reason there is no objective truth is because the objective truth is reconciling different accounts of reality. And in that case, it's all about whose narrative wins. But some aspects of reality are not determined by your reconciliation with other experiential agents. Some of them are downstream of your implicit decisions about what you're going to do in reality. For example, if I'm depending on my iPhone or my Android phone, or if I'm depending on technology to do stuff for me that I don't know how to do, and the only way for me to achieve that goal is by relying on technology to make that possible. Say, for example, to wake me up at a specific hour, or to talk with a friend or whatever. And so I need all the laws of physics to be there, and all that comes downstream of them for that phone to work. If it won't have all this, then I wouldn't be able to rely on it. Like if, for example, I give you an example of what that means. If I dream about holding a phone, and because in my dream that all the laws of nature might not be preserved, then my phone won't do the same things that I expected to do. Like, for example, be more reliable than my experience. Like I can hold the phone in my dream and look at the screen, and then it will look strange. Things will happen that don't make any sense, and that can happen because I am not relying on the entirety of the physics of the phone to be preserved. But had I relied on it in the dream, then even though I'm not reconciling with anything, just by the fact that the phone is functioning, I would have to agree to conform with electromagnetism and probably some quantum mechanics, and for that to work, you need the entire physical substrate, and for that to work, you need that also maintains the biological substrate, and you come to a reality that even though you're not reconciling with anyone else, by the fact that you're using some features of reality, you cannot free yourself from many of the things that you think that's not That's your narrative. The decision where the narrative breaks between your narrative and someone else's narrative, that's the place where people make the mistake, where postmodernism makes the mistake. You already bought into the decision that biology is like that, and that I'm giving a smartphone, but you can also say the same about the fact that you jump and expect to land on the ground, and that you put things on a shelf and expecting that it won't fall. Like everything, you already are bought into the physics, and the physics come with a hefty chunk of biology. So this is not you fighting someone else's narrative and trying to instill someone else's understanding of reality. This is your understanding of reality that you are contradicting when you believe in postmodernism. So the problem with postmodernism is that it didn't ever try to understand what is the substrate of reality that makes postmodernism possible. It just said, yeah, I'm just going to start from the narratives and build my my cosmology and my ontology from that. And that's where it got everything wrong. So postmodernism is wrong on that sense. But having said that, there is still like yes, there is like parts that are just narrative, and I would go even a step further and say that the stuff that you haven't yet agreed on, that you don't know, these are not determined. These are a matter of conflicting narratives and which narrative wins. And even more than that, if there is no narrative on a specific aspect of reality that is currently has some kind of degree of freedom, for example, what happens in the edge of the universe, and or what happens in the micro scales that no one has yet measured, or beneath the sea or whatever, that stuff hasn't yet been decided, and that stuff can be determined just in time. That stuff can also disappear once no one cares about it and doesn't change anything significant enough to anchor everyone's self everyone's own understanding of what reality is, or reliance on aspects of reality. And if it's us, once you no longer maintain it, and once everyone else no longer care about it, then it becomes yet again a degree of freedom, and it can change, which means that you can therefore change the past, because when the past becomes too obfuscated to be one thing, it can be anything, because because at that point, yes, there is no objective reality, because the objective reality the only reality that you are conforming to is the now.